With the new NFL season right around the corner and the preseason officially underway, these new batch of rookies are in for a reality check. And while many are just fighting for their livelihood, Travis Hunter is fighting to do the impossible, play on both sides of the ball. And while there may be doubters all around him, from his peers to coaches around the league to people in the media, none of that outside noise matters. As long as Travis Hunter and the Jacksonville Jaguars believe that it's possible, then they are going to do everything in their power to make it happen. Hell, the only reason Travis Hunter even ended up in Jacksonville is because the organization believed he could do exactly that. Play on both sides of the ball, be a wide receiver and cornerback at the highest of levels. And you have to remember, the Jaguars gave up a king's ransom to select Travis Hunter. Not only did they give the Cleveland Browns the 5th overall pick, they gave them their 2nd round pick, their 4th round pick, and their 1st round pick in 2026, all to move up 3 draft spots, because they know if they didn't move up to that 2nd overall pick, then they would have missed out on a generational talent. And that's all thanks to their new GM, James Gladstone. He's 34 years old, one of, if not the youngest GMs in NFL history. He was hired only in February, so of course, when you come into the league as the youngest GM ever, you're gonna wanna make some exciting moves. You're gonna wanna be memorable. You've got all of these crazy outside of the box ideas, and James Gladstone acted on that by trading for Travis Hunter. And considering all of the potential landing spots for Travis Hunter at the top of the draft, I do believe that Jacksonville was one of the best spots he could have landed at, because it is clear they have a plan tailored to Travis Hunter for him to play both sides of the ball. And if Travis Hunter is allowed to do what he wants, which is play both positions, then he is going to put in 110% to both sides. It's as simple as that. And as much as Travis Hunter needed a team like Jacksonville in order to succeed in the NFL, the Jaguars needed a talent like Travis Hunter not only to make their team better, but to put butts in the seats. Because attendance hasn't been all that great. I mean, the team hasn't been all that great. In the 13 games that Travis Hunter played for the Colorado Buffalo last season, he almost had more receiving yards than the Jaguars' top receiver in 2024. If we were to take a look at the numbers in 2024, for Travis Hunter at Colorado, I would say by far it's his best year receiving wise, and he did it in the Big 12, because before that he had been playing at Jackson State, so of course Colorado, much bigger stage. He goes out, has 96 receptions, 1,258 receiving yards, had 15 touchdowns in 13 games. He was scoring basically every single game. That's honestly why he ended up with the Heisman, not only because he was putting up these great numbers, but because he was doing it while also playing on the defensive end. This guy is phenomenal. You think that he'd run out of gas at the end of these games? No. If anything, he gets even better as the game goes on. The 4th quarter is really when Travis Hunter kicks it into the next gear. And we'll talk about what he did defensively in a second for the Buffalo, but for right now, I want to remind you guys to slow down, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Every subscription is greatly appreciated, and it goes a long way. We're on the road to 10,000, so please subscribe. Now, Travis Hunter is a 2-time All-American, 2024 Heisman winner, and Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. Reason being, he's hella fucking good. He went out, and in 13 games, he had 25 solo tackles, 11 assisted tackles to add up for 36 on the season, and had 4 interceptions as well as a tackle for loss. 4 interceptions being the most he's ever had. The year prior, he had 3 at Colorado, so 7 interceptions in the Big 12 in 2 years as a cornerback who's also being a receiver. That's one hell of a statistical category to be in. One of a kind. And he also had a forced fumble, and it came at a very clutch moment for the Colorado Buffalo. Sure, did they not have the season that they wanted to? Maybe, but it wasn't because Travis Hunter underperformed. If anything, Travis Hunter was going out and doing all that he could for this team. But I'll tell you this, if he is half as good as he was in Colorado in his first year with Jacksonville, then he will by far be the best wide receiver with the Jaguars in 2025. Last season, the Jaguars sucked. And you could say it was because Trevor Lawrence was dealing with injury, but that's just excuses because even before Trevor Lawrence got injured last year, the team was 2-7. They were bad, they were stinky, they only won 4 games, and their best receiver was their first round pick from last season in Brian Thomas Jr., who has turned out pretty good for them. Now, was he pretty much stat padding because there were absolutely no other receivers on the roster? Yeah, basically. But still, Brian Thomas Jr. went out. He was a Pro Bowler his rookie year. He had 1,282 receiving yards on 87 receptions, only 133 targets. I say only, but 133 is a shit ton considering that the next guy only had 53, and that was Brenton Strange. Now, I'm also not mentioning the fact that Brian Thomas Jr. had 10 touchdowns. The next closest person was Parker Washington with 3. When the ball was going, it was going to Brian Thomas and Brian Thomas only. But now he will have some competition. You know who won't really have competition at the wide receiver position? Travis Hunter, because Travis Hunter is only a rookie, has only been on the team for a few months now, and is already listed as their wide receiver number 2. And pretty fairly, honestly, because the only other receivers this team has are straight dog water. De'Ami Brown, who was solid for the Commanders. Then Parker Washington, who was absolutely abysmal for the Jaguars. So the receiving core for the Jaguars is pretty top heavy, and by top heavy, I mean that they only have Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. After that, they ain't got nobody. This is going to be another rough year for Jacksonville, but I do believe if they make some splashes in free agency next season, then that is when the tides begin to shift. I don't think that they're going to switch quarterbacks anytime soon. Trevor Lawrence was never the problem, okay? He's heading into his 5th season in the NFL. His first season was rough because he had Urban Meyer as his head coach. It was a complete mess, and yet somehow he was able to turn his career around when it looked over before it even started his sophomore year. His sophomore year was pure masterclass, all right? Sure, they started off rough, but then they ended up winning like 8 of their last 9 games. It was beautiful the run they went on. They ended up losing in the divisional round after choking to the Chargers. But again, that 2022 campaign for Trevor Lawrence was one for the history books. Now, the team did take a step back in 2023. Trevor Lawrence wasn't as good. And then in 2024, the team around him was just bad. There wasn't much he could do there. And he also was dealing with injuries. Now, he only had, I want to say, 11 touchdowns in the 10 games that he started. But this was the first season where Trevor Lawrence was dealing with injuries. You know, welcome to the NFL, right? He's dealing with injuries in week 9. He goes down with a shoulder injury against the Eagles, was out for about 2 weeks, comes back after their bye week only to get a concussion versus the Texans, and then that is when the Jaguars decided to pull the plug. They were already 2-7 when he got that first injury, and they weren't winning any more games. They weren't going to make the playoffs, so the best thing to do was just, get Trevor Lawrence that shoulder surgery as soon as possible and have him ready for 2025, which is what the organization did. Now, after everything I've just talked about for the last 2 minutes, it's very obvious that Trevor Lawrence is going to want Travis Hunter to play wide receiver more than cornerback because, again, he is wide receiver number 2 on the roster already, whereas at cornerback, he is a second string, but of course, they're not going to have him starting on both sides right away. Now, I don't believe that it's going to be very hard for Travis Hunter to become a starting cornerback on this team. It's not like their cornerbacks are any deeper than their wide receiving core, but they are going to take things slowly. So especially his rookie season, you're going to see Travis Hunter on the offensive side of the ball more than the defensive side of the ball, which is pretty interesting because heading into the draft, he was clearly a better cornerback prospect than he was a wide receiver prospect. But because of the needs that this Jaguars team has, he's just going to be playing more wide receiver. Now, by the time this video comes out, he'll have probably already played his first preseason game, might even have a bit footage from there, who knows? But we'll get a good grasp of how the Jaguars plan to use him in these next up and coming weeks during the preseason. If Travis Hunter is going to want to play on both sides of the ball for the entirety of the season, he's going to need to show that he can do it in the preseason. And we're all going to be tuning into these Jaguars preseason games, along with the Browns ones, because we want to see Shador ball, obviously. But anyway, that's about it for this video. Catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.